Hey all you cool cats and kittens. Today I'm doing something on my channel I have never done before. I'm kind of reviewing something, a TV show or a docu-series, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I wouldn't call it so much a review as I'm just going to say what I think about it. The truth of the matter is my husband won't watch it and I don't have anybody else to talk about it with. So I figured I would do it with you guys. Also in this video, I'm going to teach you guys how to do this kind of cat eye look. I did this in a video recently, but didn't really explain what I was doing. So I figured, why not? We'll just make this a big theme. I'll wear some leopard print. We'll do a cat eye. It's going to be perfect. I was trying to do something there, didn't work out, whatever. Make sure you guys check the down bar because I will list everything that I use in this video. All my social media platforms are down there. And make sure you subscribe if you are new here. I would love to have you. And if you're not new, hey, what's up? How's your mom and him? Let's just get started. This is a chit chat and get ready with me, which means I will have a naked face in 3, 2, 1. I'm going to be working mostly out of the Makeup Geek Matrix System neutral palette, but any colors you have actually will work. They do not have to be browns. Just any colors. You need about 4 shades of the same color in different tones. So a light, a medium, a dark, and a darkest. I'm going to use Hula Bronzer as my transition color. I've been doing this a lot lately, and I really like it. You're going to start with this in the outer corner. You want to focus on doing this motion pretty much for the entirety of the look, but with this first shade we're going in with, this is actually going to go all over our crease, even in our inner corner. Okay, first of all, I think we can all agree that in 2020, this is basically the greatest gift we could be given. Everybody's sick of being in the house, and this has truly made the entire process a little bit more enjoyable, I have to say. So last year, Wondery, which is the same podcasting network that released Dirty John, put out a podcast called Over My Dead Body. That is the name of the actual podcast, and then within that podcast there are different series, and one of the series was about Joe Exotic. So I heard about this about a year ago. So as of yesterday, I tried to find that podcast again to see if there was any differences or information that was included in it that wasn't included in the show, and there's only one thing I can truly remember, which we'll get into. But it seems like Wondery has put up a paywall, and you can't listen to that podcast anymore unless you give them money, which jerks. Just jerks. I don't want to give away the entire plot, but I might. So if you haven't seen it, go ahead and don't watch this. So first of all, I just want to say that even though I think the show is really funny and I'm probably going to rag on it a lot, I do think that the subject matter that it tackles is actually pretty serious and I do care a lot about. I think cub petting and treating animals like they are entertainment for other people is wrong, period, astronaut. If you guys are really interested in the psychology of the type of people who own exotic or dangerous predatory animals, or if you want to see more examples of like how big this type of an industry is, I highly recommend you guys watch a show called Fatal Attractions. You gotta put the S at the end because Fatal Attraction, the movie Fatal Attractions, is a show. It used to be on Animal Planet, but right now it is on Amazon Prime for free. It's one of those shows that, like, it doesn't matter how much time goes by, I can rewatch it and it feels just as entertaining as the first time I saw it. Definitely check it out. But I am really, really against the idea of trying to domesticate wild animals, particularly wild predatory animals, and I think you have to have a pretty high level of narcissism to actually believe that you are truly bonding with these animals. They are tolerating you. Next, you're gonna go in with a more pointed brush and some darker colors, and you're gonna repeat the motion that you just did, except this time we're gonna completely fill in our lid also. I think it's pretty clear from watching the show on its own that the type of people who want to own big cats might be a little unhinged in some way. I don't think that's up for debate, but like I said, truly understanding the psychology of these people fascinates me, so watch that show if you want more context into that. But let's talk about the individual players, shall we? Joe is such a polarizing figure for me because while I think he is basically a national treasure and should be protected at all costs, I also definitely think he was kind of a shitbird. I don't think we can disagree on that on some level. I think what's truly sad is that he starts off, you can tell if you really go back and watch some of the older like news footage about him, he definitely started off with a noble cause. In fact, he apparently got some of his first tigers from Carole effing Baskin, side note. And the beginning of his platform was very much so about conservation, raising awareness around cats, blah, blah, blah. But money got a hold of him and it all went sideways. There are just certain people who, through no fault of their own, are just born entertainers. They cannot help it. And it's so interesting the way reality TV kind of brings us these people. So it's like Honey Boo Boo, you got Snooki, just people who in their own way of living their lives, you can't stop watching them. They're so entertaining. He was just off the chain, 365, 24/7, can't stop, won't stop, just something else. Like one of my favorite not my favorite part because I feel terrible for Saf, but what is so, I don't even know the word for this. Like how he happened to have a friggin' EMT jacket at the ready and had time to put it on while they were trying to get Saf medical attention. That killed me. I'm sorry. I'm trying so hard not to laugh while I'm doing my eye makeup. It's so counterproductive. I kind of feel like Joe Exotic is the friggin' Kanye West of the big cat world. Like he was just so high on his own supply and he was really like trying to rock that entrepreneurial spirit outside of his gift shop. I heard that he also had a bar and a restaurant. He had Joe Exotic TV. He had his little music career, which I also heard in the podcast. That's the one thing that I noticed a difference in that I could remember in the podcast versus the TV show. In the podcast, they said that he does not sing those songs. They said he pays someone else to produce that music and like he sings like a little vocal track overlay, but like that's not his music from what I understand. So not only that, he's like the Milli Vanilli of the big cat world. I don't know. I feel like Joe was set up from Front Street. There is no way around it. I mean, here's the deal. Sure, he went on live TV to anyone that would listen would tell them over and over again that he wanted to get rid of Carole Baskin. That was not a mystery, but he was set up. My man Joe was set up. Do you guys hear that Cardi B is trying to get Joe out of prison? Wouldn't it be nuts if this all comes to fruition and like it succeeds? We need this, America. We need this. Y'all let Joe out. Next, we're just going in with a smaller tipped brush and darker eyeshadows. You guys, the memes that have come out of this show, I would be willing to argue are almost better than the show itself. There have been so many nights in the past week or so that I have just stayed up searching for Tiger King memes and laughing myself stupid trying not to wake my husband up. Like they are giving me all the life I need. Quarantine can't keep me down. I got Joe Exotic memes. Joe was just most likely very strung out for the majority of the time that he had that zoo. I think that really affected his decision-making skills, his interest in his business. Like he truly just lost his way. And I'm not saying that's okay because those animals did not deserve to be abused or suffer the way they did. But I don't think we were dealing with a person who was completely present of mind either. Side note, did anyone else think that Travis was super hot, R.I.P.? Like, I thought he was beautiful. Oh my gosh. Now let's talk about Carole Baskin. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I don't think harassing Carole is the answer. I am, not surprisingly, a member of a Joe Exotic Facebook group, and there's a lot of people in there who are taken to the streets. Like they're trying to go harass her, and like I get it, we're all hopped up, we've been quarantined for too long, like just manic energy just building up inside of us. But I don't think harassing Carole Baskin is going to actually accomplish anything. I don't know if I would encourage that, truthfully. I'm gonna say everything in this video, in terms of my opinion, is allegedly. It's alleged. Don't come after me, Carole. But I think, allegedly, if she didn't do it, she is the luckiest woman on planet friggin' Earth. Someone should bottle Carole Baskin's essence and sell it for money because nobody gets as lucky as this woman is. Carole Baskin apparently grew up in a impoverished kind of a situation, and then one day she gets in a fight with her first husband and goes walking down the road, and then a millionaire happens to pull over and ask her to get in the car with him, and then they date and get married, and she has a charmed life. Apparently the marriage starts going south. Her husband is telling people he wants out. He thinks that she's crazy, this, that, and the third. And when he gets out, he's taking his cats and he's taking his money with him. And then he friggin' disappears. completely disappears. And not only does he disappear, but all of his documents surrounding, like, I don't know if it was his will or his trust or his power of attorney or a combination of the three, not only say that Carole is supposed to get every single thing, I believe he took his kids out of the paperwork or the documents. Also, correct me if I'm wrong. But not only does it say that, but it also says that she should be awarded these things even if he is a victim of a disappearance. And apparently that is a very unusual thing to put in documents like that. We're going in with a smaller brush and darker colors again. This is a very easy thing to do. The only part that it might be a little difficult is when you get to your eyeliner, but the shadow part, super easy. The main thing you want to pay attention to when you're doing this is changing the placement of your eyeshadow. So your lighter colors are going to go in this way, so they'll go in the furthest. Your medium tones are going to go in a little bit closer to the outer corner, and your darker colors are going to stay mostly out here. It's mostly just this motion you want to keep replicating. So I know a lot of people are saying that what Carole and Joe did is exactly the same. I don't know that it is exactly the same because Carole apparently wasn't doing things like going on cub petting tours, which is a big part of how Joe made his money. But it wasn't that different what she was doing either. Especially because for someone who is so concerned with the way Joe treats his animals, and for someone who has a better handle on how to take care of them and has better facilities and this, that, and the other, why would your objective to sue Joe be to take $1 million from him, making sure the animals he does have would inevitably suffer more? Why wouldn't you try to get the animals from him, like make that agreement? That way he has them no longer, and then you can either take care of them yourselves or move them through the proper channels of places they could be taken care of. That's why I do not believe this was actually about taking care of animals, because that would have been her focus. Her focus was actually taking down Joe. You'll never convince me of anything otherwise. And that is one thing I remember at the end of the show that I loved that they said. Like, I believe it was Saf and who was the other person? Somebody else, I can't remember who, made the comment that this whole war was waged over animal rights and tiger protection, big cat protection, and none of them ended up any better in this situation whatsoever. For all that went on, nothing really changed. None of the lives of these animals was greatly improved upon in any capacity. And then Carole's friend current husband, Howard, listen, he recently did a video on YouTube, on the Big Cat Rescue YouTube page, where basically he's airing out him and Carole's collective grievances over the tone that the documentary took. They're really mad that the tone of this documentary wasn't more in line of Big Fish, which was a documentary that came out a few years ago that really changed the way aquariums, particularly SeaWorld, functioned or were allowed to be run anymore. Also, real quick, I'm taking an even smaller brush than I've been using. This one actually has a little bit of like a point to it, do you see? And I'm going in with the darkest color I'm gonna work with, which is a really, really dark, cool tone brown, almost black. And you're just gonna mimic that same thing we've been doing the whole time. So I'm just doing this right here. I highly recommend doing your eyeshadow first in this look, if you can tell. And to me, I'm sorry, it almost illuminates the degree of self-righteousness that Carole and her husband have surrounding this subject. Once again, I'm not saying that their overall cause or what they're working towards isn't noble. I think it's really important, and I'm glad that someone's working on it this hard. We're gonna do the liner, which is gonna be really hard for me to talk during, but we will see what happens. But the fact that they are so cheesed off about the tone that that documentary took truly says so much more about them than the documentary actually does in some ways. Then you're going to take a small brush and your darkest brown, and you're going to kind of follow along this outer corner where your eyeliner is. But I guess that they feel that not nearly enough attention was put on the actual issue at hand. Enough awareness was not raised. I don't really know what their grievance is, because here's the thing. I don't think that the big cat industry or the big cat trade or whatever came off very well at all. I mean, Do you guys agree? Do you guys like want to go support this type of business model anymore or any less than you did before? Like, I would assume after seeing kind of what goes into it, you would want nothing to do with it. I would think so, at least. I don't want anything to do with it personally. I already didn't support that before the show came out, but even less so now. So it just kind of sounds like this didn't get to be the Carole Baskin is a saint hour. People aren't in love with her and licking her butthole, so everyone is just, so she's pissed. She's pissed. I would argue that millions of people are watching Tiger King. And like I said, the big cat trade is not coming off well. I don't think, for the most part, we can expect to see an increase in support around these businesses. So awareness was raised. Whether it was the way she wanted it raised or not, like, the job got done. I do not truly believe this is about tigers for her. Your foundation, or what do you want to call this? Is this her company? What is this? Her zoo? Whatever you want to call it. The name of it was dropped so many times. Her social media handles were plugged so many times. We all know what Big Cat Rescue is. We all know what they do now. Millions of people have access to that information, and she's still not happy. She was obviously just really counting on the fact that people were going to side with her, hate Joe, and that didn't happen, and she's vexed. Not to mention, it opened up a very peculiar aspect of Carole Baskin's history, which is what happened to her husband. And that's definitely why they're trying to discredit the creators of that documentary, the tone of the documentary, because they just don't want this brought up. If this was about the cats, they would probably find a way just to move on with their lives. And like I said, if it was about the cats, why wasn't your plan the whole time to just get Joe's animals taken from him? Why was the plan to take him down as a person? It doesn't make any sense to me. Before I moved on to the next character in this cast of weirdos, I'm going to go ahead and do my lashes and mascara, and then I'll be right back. So I'm back. I think I was talking about Carole and her husband. I'm worried about Howard. Free Howard. I kind of feel like, do you remember back in the early 2000s when Tom Cruise and Katy Perry got married? And Katy Perry? Wouldn't that be crazy? Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes got married, and then for years everybody was like, let her go. That's kind of how I feel about Howard. So there's a part in the YouTube video that Howard made where they're talking about everything that made them mad about this documentary, where he's like, Carole and I have never said a cross word to each other. We've never even had an argument, blah, blah, blah. And honestly, that, whether you realize it or not, dude, that's really not helping your case any. Because to me, something about that, maybe in conjunction with this picture, just smacks of like him being so subservient to her that a fight would never actually have to occur. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say? I don't think that's a good sign. And also, I don't believe you. That's an outlandish thing to suggest, that two people who lived together for 15 years would never argue. That is impossible. That almost makes y'all seem crazier. But speaking of crazy relationships that are scary, let's talk about Doc Mantle, who was another person who was unhappy with the way they came off in this documentary. I'm sorry. I kind of feel like either everybody in this documentary was told that the documentary was about something different. Like, I don't know if Doc thought the documentary was about how baller he is, and then Carole thought the documentary was about how amazing she is, and then everybody feels duped because they, in fact, are all kind of trash people. That's the main thing about this. I also want to say, even though out of all these folks, I'm kind of Team Joe because at least he's the most real person and not trying to pretend to be something he's not. All of them are garbage people. Like, let's be real. There's not one person on the show, except for maybe Saf. Actually, not even maybe. Definitely Saf. That I feel I'm rooting for in any capacity. But yeah, Doc Mantle is, and side note, when they get to the part in the show where the documentary producers are like, what is Doc a doctor of? Like, what does he have his degree in? And his woman, one of his many women, says like mystical arts, I think is what she said. What kind of Harry Potter shit is that? I'm sorry. Did you go to like visit Harry Potter's mystical world at Universal Studios one year? Supposedly what he actually has, and I just heard this a couple seconds ago on a video I was watching by Ready to Glare. I will link her channel down below and her video. She's amazing. Go check her out. Apparently his degree is in Chinese medicine that he got in China, so now he's a doctor. Probably in the same way that like Dr. Pepper is a doctor. I don't understand what. Anyway, oh my god. There's a moment in the show where he seems like a offended that the producers would dare imply that he has a cult. In fact, they have an entire episode, I believe it's episode 2. They're talking all about how everybody who works on these big cat farms, not everyone, but the people they show, seem to be doing it for little or no money, or even if it's just for the sake of being in the company of these animals. So Joe is supposedly paying his workers, who are comprised mostly of people who are probably a little bit down on their luck. Some of them have recently gotten out of prison. He's paying them like $150 a week, I believe is what was said. And then you have Carole Baskin, who has people working totally for free. And this is the thing I don't get about Carole. Apparently, there was some digging done into her financial records, and then I think in the span of like 4 years or something like that, Carole brought in upwards of like $30 million, and who knows where all that money is coming from. She also has money from her former husband, who is a multimillionaire. And I don't really understand where all that money is going. It is definitely not going to the workers, because all the workers that they showed in the documentary, that doesn't mean there aren't other ones, but a lot of the workers that we met, and there were a lot of them, are volunteers. I can't get my mind around, if Carole is bringing in that much money, why in the world she's not paying her workers. And I get that there's probably people out there who are happy to work for free if they can be around cats. In fact, that's a big thing they talk about in the show. One of Joe's habitats on his property, which was his alligator habitat, burned down suspiciously. And the guy who rebuilt it said that he built him like $120,000 or something like that replacement and charged him $8,000. And when he was asked why he did that, the worker said, well, I got to hang out with tigers all day. So what you learn in this show is basically the world is truly divided into two types of people. There's big cat people and there's everybody else, because there's pretty much nothing in the world. Let me think about it. I don't think there's anything in the world that you could offer me in exchange for actual money for my work that I would be like, good deal. You couldn't pay me in cheeseburgers. You couldn't pay me in tiger cub cuddles. Like, no. These people are just operating on a different wavelength than the rest of us. And I think the people who own these, we're going to call farm sanctuaries, whatever what you want to call them, they know that. They know that there are people out there who will do anything to spend time around these exotic animals. Once again, I don't understand why. I think they're beautiful. Tigers, lions, panthers, wild animals are a thing of beauty, and to see one up close probably is a very intoxicating experience all its own. But I really feel like you could compare a lot of these people's interest or dedication to these wild animals to that of someone who has a drug addiction. Like, they will really sacrifice their entire identity, their lives, their time, their energy, their expertise, their skill sets in exchange for contact with a friggin' tiger who doesn't want anything to do with you. Let's be clear. These animals are tolerating you. That is it. There are so many parts in that show where they're talking about Doc Mantle's wives or girlfriends or whatever. I guess he's not legally actually married to any of them. But like, he changes these women's names, which I can't think of anything more culty than changing the names of the people you surround yourself with. Sorry, you'll never convince me of anything else. Could you imagine if you met a guy and in order to be in a relationship with him, you had to change your name? I guess technically when you get married, you have to change your name. It's no different, honestly. I'm kind of not a big fan of the idea of changing your name when you get married either. So to be fair, I guess a lot of us change our names to be in a relationship. But I mean, if all parties involved are consenting grown-ass adults, I don't know that we can really fault him or the individuals at play as long as everybody knows like what's going on. But it turns out that, you know, Doc Mantle ain't the only one who's able to get these polyamorous relationships because of his proximity to friggin' wild animals, because Joe was doing the same thing. He had 2 husbands at one time in the form of John and Travis, which, by the way, both of them supposedly at one time or the other have made it very clear, whether to Joe or to the staff members or to the media, that they are not actually gay. And although Carole might not be in any polyamorous relationships, once again, the dynamic between her and her husband isn't not cult-like devotion. And then she has all these people working for her for free. You guys help me understand. Help me understand. There's nothing in the world I like that much. Joe had some incredibly loyal employees, which makes me wonder, like, what is so different about him versus the other people in this story? Because while Carole might have people on her side being like, Carole is the Mother Teresa of cats, Saf, who identifies as a transgender man, so I'm going to use the he pronoun, lost his arm to a tiger and was back at work 7 days later. That's nuts. I mean, he's not nuts, but that level of devotion and dedication to your job is unreal. If Saf doesn't get job opportunities by the buttload at the end of all of this, like, we've done something wrong as a country, because that is a good employee if I've ever seen one. So in another stunning display of minimal self-awareness that Carole Baskin exudes on the show, in the Cult of Personality episode, there's a part where I think it's either her or Harold, are talking about the fact that it's not unusual for people who have this kind of access to big cats. It's not uncommon for them to attract, draw in, and use the cats to manipulate and control people. I really wish they would have, like, juxtaposed that statement with friggin' Harold serenading Carole, or even the part where all of her workers are like, you have to work here for 3 years to get a different colored t-shirt, and then Carole's like, I don't even know all these people. Girl. But she definitely has a point, because that is displayed multiple times throughout this series. Like, the things people do in the name of big cats make zero sense to me. 0 cents. Then you got friggin' Jeff Lowe, who is the snakiest snake in the grass. I'll tell you what, I know Carole Baskin getting a lot of shit, but if I had to say who the villain of this entire series would be, it would be Jeff Lowe. Jeff Lowe looks like 2009 just threw up on him. I've never seen an older person dress in such a way that screams, hello, fellow youths, more in my life than what I saw him. If everybody else is getting paid in tiger cuddles, it looks like Jeff Lowe gets paid in friggin' buckle gift cards. So Jeff Lowe is, I don't even really remember how Joe and Jeff come to know each other or what the inciting incident for their business relationship was, but from what I understand, Carole Baskin's coming after Joe. She sues him for $1 million, and Joe, in order to protect his assets and keep Carole from being able to get his zoo, foolishly signs his property over to this guy. And then Jeff proceeds to do him all the way dirty. Jeff set him up. I don't feel like there is any debate whatsoever. Jeff set him up. I'm gonna give you guys some context. Before I was a makeup artist or a YouTuber, I was a bartender for many years. And I have met Jeff Lowe. Not the Jeff Lowe, but I've met Jeff Lowe. You see these guys everywhere. These are the kind of guys who I feel like their ego and masculinity is so fragile to them that they need women to prop them up and make them feel worthy of attention or acknowledgement for the rest of the world. And he is like unashamed of that in every capacity during his duration on this show. He comes right out and says it, that the tigers are friggin' chick magnets. I mean, I guess I don't mind it so much. At least he's being transparent about the motivations behind him and these tigers. But in some ways, what actually bothers me more than him, and maybe bother isn't the right word, how about concern? What concerns me more than him is his wife or his girlfriend or whoever this woman is to him, because she just seems like someone who is way out of this douchebag's league, way out of his league, and she seems to have no idea whatsoever. So that makes me feel like she might not have the highest self-esteem in the world. It's almost like she's one of those girls who's like, I'm a cool girl. I'm not like other girls. I hang out with tigers and let you have threesomes in Vegas. Like, very that. Which, like, whatever, if that's what you want to do, cool. But it doesn't strike me as her actual motivation. It more comes across as, like, a way to get this man's approval. In fact, at the end of the friggin' documentary, you know, say what you want about Doc. He didn't say anything, at least on camera, that seemed derogatory or insensitive to the women he's in a relationship with. So that leads me to believe that there is a chance he probably conducts himself with at least a little bit of respect towards them. But this man on camera, when his wife, his beautiful wife, who he has no business with, I don't care how many friggin' affliction t-shirts you have. Also, I'm gonna start doing my lower lash line. What you're gonna do is you're gonna start off with some of the lighter browns you use. Don't go in with the darker ones yet. And we're just going to connect our lower lash line with our upper lash line. This is the part that's actually gonna make it look really cat-like. There's a part at the end of the documentary where his wife, I want to say her name is April, I don't know why, comes out and says she's pregnant, and this fool on TV, like no F's given, is talking about how he can't wait for her to have this baby so she can get back in the gym. And then he even holds up a picture of her before the baby as if to be like, this is what she used to look like. And then there's talk of the nanny for the baby, and they're making sure that it's a woman that he could have sex with. Like, I can't. If that is the way he talks about her or treats her on TV, on camera, I can't even imagine the way he treats her and talks about her or to her in the privacy of their own home. That's horrible to me. He is the biggest, of all the shitheads on this show, he's the biggest one if you ask me. Something about him I don't like, and like I said, I think it's because I've met this person so many times. He's a friggin' caricature. He could be an action figure, and he would come with a Monster Energy drink and an Avenged Sevenfold CD. Yeah, that's right, I said CD, because he is stuck in 2009 like his life depends on it. Then you got friggin' James Garriston, who had the most epic scene that I've ever seen in my entire life. Maybe not even on a documentary ever. The moment where he comes in on that Sea-Doo, genius. But this Kenny Powers looking douchebag is kind of like one of the people most instrumental in getting Joe locked up. He's like the Takeshi 6ix9ine of the big cat world. This guy sucks. I mean, like I said, pretty much everybody sucks. Everybody sucks in this show, with little to no exception. But he is the suckiest of them all. The thing that kills me about him is he goes on to say that, like, not only, like, did he snitch on Joe, but he also snitched because he's an informant. And he's an informant because apparently he's been brought up on lemur charges. Something about a lemur got him in trouble with the feds working with them people. I can't. You're gonna take your gel liner, and this is kind of what's gonna give it the actual like cat eye look, and you're going to create a little triangle in the inner corner of your eye right here. But the main trick that you want to do, if you're looking at me straight on, you can see this line. But if I tilt my head up, do you see how it kind of looks like a dot that's not connected to my upper lash line? You want to make sure these connect. Then you're going to take your eyeliner and you're going to bring this line all the way around your eye, but keep it really, really thin. You don't want to go too thick with it. You're going to take a thin, smudgy brush like this and your darkest brown shadow that you started with in this outer corner, and you're going to kind of set/smudge this line out a little bit. You also want to kind of help add some dark color surrounding this line so that it kind of blends a little bit into the skin and it's not just a harsh black line. That's a very like dated, like early 90s look that I'm not super into. So surrounding it with some shadow helps. Then taking black eyeliner, you want to fill in your waterline as well. So by the time you're done, you should have something kind of like this. So I'm gonna wrap this up. Apparently, Kenny Powers feels like his work here is not done. He's gonna snitch on some more people. I don't know how any of these people sleep at night, honestly. It also kind of made me want to know, like, are there wolf people? Like the way there's cat people, are there like wolf people who act this crazy? Is this just specific to the cat trade? In terms of Joe's prison sentence, I do think it's bullshit that they like conflated the animal abuse charges with him allegedly trying to bump Carole Baskin off. Now, he didn't do himself any favors by making so many recorded statements and accounts about the fact that he was going to do exactly that. But that almost makes me feel like it's less likely that he did this or that he actually intended for this to happen, because it seems like if Joe wanted this done, he was ready to do it himself. He kind of was getting to the point, especially towards the end, where it didn't seem like he had much to lose. I don't think we have heard or seen the last of any of these people. In fact, there's already talk of a Tiger King Part 2. There is apparently a Tiger King movie coming out, which I don't even know what they could do with it at this point. How much more over the top could you take this narrative? Like, usually when people do movies based on real life events, they have to kind of jazz it up a little bit to make it interesting for the lay person to watch in a movie. You know, they have to like expand on and exaggerate characters and exaggerate situations and maybe add some fake scenarios into the mix to keep it entertaining, but they ain't gonna have to do much with this. Other than like doing a shot-for-shot remake of this documentary, I don't understand what more they could bring to the story, but I'm gonna watch it. You better believe it. Apparently Joe is in the prison talking about he's finna spill the beans on everyone, which I don't really blame him. I really don't. It kind of feels like everybody in this story, literally everybody, is on some bullshit, and Joe is the only one who's had to answer for any of it. And I kind of think that was the plan all along in some way. It feels like that was everybody's MO the whole time, and almost what everyone thought this documentary was going to be. Lots of people just have little to no self-awareness and don't understand how their actions and their words come across to an unbiased party. If you're surrounding yourself, in the case of Doc Mantle, with your harem and tons of people who think you're the cool kid on the block because you got elephants and tigers, you probably don't get a lot of feedback that makes you question your life decisions at all. Same thing with Joe, same thing with Carole. I really hope in the coming days and weeks on YouTube, a bunch of psychologists get some videos out and start talking to us about kind of what goes into these types of characters, the mental disposition or lifestyle choices or upbringing or whatever, the combination of all three that goes into the personality type that wants to surround themselves with predatory animals like this. All exotic animals in general, I think trying to cage them and treat them like they're supposed to be domesticated, I think speaks to a level of narcissism, but particularly when it comes to predatory animals, and even more so, handling them like this. There's a clip where Joe Exotic in the show is riding with a tiger shotgun in the car, and it speaks a lot to me of like this sense of omnipotence that they get around these animals. Like they believe on some level they are impervious to this animal's million years long primal instinct to eat and hunt and kill. I don't know, like there's something there, and I would love to see so many more deep dives into that, but I'm going to quickly fix my hair, do my lips, and I'll be right back to really wrap this up. All right, you guys, summarize my entire thoughts on this situation. Definitely check out Tiger King on Netflix if you're feeling squirrely. I kind of feel like it has just been such a blessing for us at this point in the world to have something to laugh about. The memes are almost better than the show. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, thank you to the patrons. We have talked about doing a Tiger King live stream over there. I told you guys that we've been doing a lot of live streams over there, and I hope to continue to do more for the duration of the time that we are encouraged to be in self-isolation. Honestly, that's the reason I've been posting so much. That's why I'm sharing so many memes on Instagram stories. That's why I'm doing live streams, because if there's anything I can do to make this period any less stressful or make it more fun for you, then I definitely want to be a part of that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, check the down bar for links to all my social media platforms, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.